What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here, and tonight we've been getting a lot of questions about how to get commercial. Not only myself, but Daniel has too. And tonight we're going to walk through kind of how Daniel gets commercial jobs. We're going to talk about how he has been successful, and these are the things that we are going to do tonight. So, with that, um, we'll get started here. Commercial Christmas lights is definitely one thing that is a little bit different than just hanging regular residential houses. You have to understand how to get the bid and how to understand to get the lead in the first place. And this is where a lot of people struggle is how do I even get these leads? After we get the leads, then you have to figure out how much to charge, how to get it up, what to do, all of those awesome things. And tonight we're going to walk through the process of that. But before we get started, I want Daniel to tell me just a little bit about who are you, where you're from, and kind of your success so far.
Thanks, Jason. Uh, I'm Daniel, and I've been doing Christmas lights now since 2023, and I really enjoy it. It's something I have a lot of passion for. I'm originally from Scotland. I now live in Virginia, it's a good thing to hop on this call tonight. Because I know Jason has mentioned my story a lot, because he's helped me a lot and he's helped me get to where I am today. And without Jason, I wouldn't be where I am today. And, I think a lot of people have been wondering how I've got there. And I know I've been on this call before and kind of explained some of it, but I figured it'd be a good idea tonight to kind of give more and kind of give people an insight into what I'm really doing to get these commercial accounts. And that's it, really.
All right. So, first off, this question gets asked a lot, and I mean a lot. And the one thing I'm going to say about this is you have to take action, right? It's one of those things, Daniel and I were talking about this earlier today about, what it takes to be able to get commercial work, right? What does it take to get commercial work? And the one thing that Daniel does is he's prolific, he's relentless, and he doesn't stop at that, right? And this is one of those things that it's not an easy thing to do. It is definitely something that you get a lot of no's before you get yeses. So, Daniel, tell me in 2024, how many phone calls or what have you done to be able to get commercial work?
So much, like early too. I started making calls. So after my first season in Christmas lights, which was 2023, I noticed I did well, but I didn't get as many commercial accounts as I'd hoped with the amount of conversations I had with commercial properties. Given that I started in, when did I start? September, really, the time I got started with Christmas Lights 2023. And what I noticed then was that a lot of these commercial customers, they'd already ran through their budgets for the year. So we're kind of talking Q3, start of Q4. A lot of them had said, hey, we're really interested for next year. And I thought they were just trying to get me off the phone. But I reached back out. And I made a point to reach back out early, like Q1, and that was the game changer. So then I started to pick up a little bit of traction, closing deals early in the year in 2024, and that's when I realised it was very simple, but it all made sense to me. Like, yeah, commercials have a budget, and they're going to run through that budget, and if you don't get in early enough, then it's going to be very difficult. Doesn't matter how much they want them, doesn't matter how excited they are. They're looking at the designs. If they don't have the budget, they don't have the budget. So I was very proactive with it and started that early 2024, and it paid off. It did. I did really well. I got a lot of commercial clients out of it, and it kind of snowballed from there. And what you find with commercials, what I've found is once you've done a good job with a commercial, it usually opens the door to another one and then another one. It's kind of like a snowball effect, because at the end of the day, it's all network, it's all relationships. And what I've found with, and I remember talking to you about this, I hadn't closed an HOA yet, and I was kind of frustrated about it. I was like, what's it going to take, Jason? And you had mentioned to me going in and actually presenting to the HOAs and doing a presentation. And that was an example of something I did in 2024. I went in, I presented in front of, can't remember, it was maybe 10, 11 property managers for the HOA, but I didn't realize they all had about 8 or 9 properties each on their portfolio. So that, you've just really presented in front of what, 90 to 100 properties without really knowing it. And I didn't really hear anything for maybe a month, followed up, got the email list from that, which was really beneficial. From that, it was a lunch meet and greet. So I took lunch in, I took Chick-fil-A in, I presented to them, I showed them what we were all about, and gave them, you gave me the advice to take some gifts in. So I took some memorabilia, like holiday accents, mugs, and some other stuff, like small things and little tokens. And yeah, ended up getting work out of that. And once I got that first HOA, it broke the seal, and it's just continuing now. It's just momentum.
So, one of the things about this is Daniel hasn't been in business for 5 years, 10 years. He's been in business. Last year was his second year. So his second year, his first year he did 179,000. Last year he did over half a million. And here's the thing about that. The one thing that I want to hit on this is Daniel takes action. And one of the action that he takes is picking up the phone and just calling people. How often and how many phone calls do you make a week, a month, whatever that might be? And here's the other thing. A lot of people think that Christmas type business we do in September, October, and November and December. That's not the case. Is that true, Daniel?
So no, it's not true if we're talking about commercial, right? Now, residential, absolutely. You're going to close most of your accounts residential during those months. But if you're trying to get those bigger jobs, then no, it's not true. It's actually the opposite. You want to get it done early in the year.
So, how much last year was a percentage wise was commercial for you?
Probably, probably around about 35% commercial.
And what's your goal this year?
I'd love to get it to where it's 50-50. I don't know what that's going to take, because I don't know what's going to come given residential season and how that snowballs too. That's another thing that just gets a lot of traction and ends up snowballing. So
So, tell me how most of these, how you get a lot of these jobs isn't just by hoping, right? You actually had to pick up the phone and start calling people. When you call these people, I know this gets asked 100,000 times. Do you have a script, or how do you handle that phone call when you're just cold calling people?
no, no, so no script, but that doesn't mean that I don't hit a lot of the same points. But I try and focus more on, especially when it's so it's very different than going and knocking on the door. That's completely, in my opinion, it's different, right? Because you've not got the chance to see them face to face. So right off the bat, you're just trying to be positive and just trying to build a relationship and make sure you get to the decision maker as quickly as you can. Because you might be talking to someone who can get nowhere near to a decision. So it's all about trying to kind of get your way through, and that can be frustrating. And there's been times where I've just left. I'll give you an example. I left a very positive voicemail. I've done it a lot. Like, I left a very positive voicemail this one time, and it ended up being, I was frustrated. I never got to the decision maker, and I left the voicemail. I ended up getting a call back probably a month later, and I didn't land a job with these three, but I ended up, the guy wanted so the place I'd called him about was a shopping centre up the road from me in Warrington, where I live. And he called me back and he's like, look, I'm not interested for Warrington, but I'm interested for 3 other shopping centres which are around about Ashburn area in Northern Virginia. They were massive shopping centres. And that only came because I left a nice positive voicemail. So even if you don't get to them on the phone, as long as you leave something that it's not negative, it's not down, but you're upbeat and you're positive, and leave a nice voicemail, they might get back to you.
So
Um,
basically, you're saying you need to be smiling and happy as all get outs when you're on this phone call, even
yeah,
if you're talking to the voicemail.
yeah, yeah,
And if you didn't know, people can see that through the voicemail. I don't know if you knew that or not. I know it's kind of weird, but it is true.
yeah.
So, with that, we got the phone calls. We finally get there. Do you have a certain way that you get your? How do you find these businesses that may want Christmas lights?
How do I find them?
Yeah.
So what I try to do is I put them into lists. So I try and stick with the same business type for a given day. So if I'm going to dedicate a day or a morning to calls, what I'll do is I'll call whatever it is. It might be HOAs for that day, or it might be churches, or it might be banks, or it might be elderly homes. And I'll call them on that same day so that I kind of get into a groove. And although I'm not doing a script, I can kind of mention the same things about how it's going to benefit that business, how it's going to, how it's going to benefit a church. How, and so you find a groove that way, and that's what I like to do. Now that doesn't mean I'm always going to get on the end of the phone, and in all honesty, it's quite difficult to just get on the phone with somebody a lot of the time, especially when you're dealing with it. A lot of them are older women who they're not always best pleased when you call. So
So you
um,
got to give them a little Scottish charm then.
yeah, yeah, and I think they think as well you're crazy for calling as early as you are. Like now, what's it now? What are we in June? They think you're crazy for calling and talking about Christmas lights, but you quickly explain to them, "I'm having to call you now because I understand you probably got a budget," and then they go, "Yeah," and then you're in.
Gotcha. So once you get in and you call, now, is there like what happens if you go one day and you call 25 people and you get 25 no's? What do you do the next day? Do you just give up and say phone calling don't work, or what do you do?
No, because you're closer to a yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to keep going. And how many days have you done this that you've gotten no's before?
Well, this month's a perfect example. The last 4 weeks, I don't think. Yeah, I've not had one job I've closed. So terrible.
But you're still calling people.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what I'm getting at is you got you can't it is most people think that Christmas lights is only during September, October, November, December, but you have to market Christmas lights all year long. Whether you're going for residential or commercial, it doesn't matter. Where we have to, because Google doesn't know that it's not going to be done, right? And usually, when you try to start marketing in September, you're already doing everything that you can't do this stuff in the first place. And so that's why it is important that we do this. And when you start sowing the seed, when you start putting that net out there, right, you're going to get people that will call you back that might have been a no that will turn to a yes. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to give a little bit of advice here because I'm on your call and things. I know that there's a lot of guys who do pressure washing as well. And I think there's a misconception that I only just do Christmas lights, and I actually do run a soccer club as well with my father. So I have that going on, and that keeps me very busy as well, in addition to my two kids. So I don't have like all day to call. So what I do is like I make use of time. So if I'm in my truck, I make a list on my phone in the notes feature for that day. The night before, I'll try, not always, but I'll try and make a list of my target, what I want to do, and the list of businesses, and I'll try and use ChatGPT to help me out to identify what businesses, and then I'll make the list. And so I just want to bring this up because I know that pressure washers right now are in season, they're busy, and they may only have themselves. They may not have a staff like myself. I don't have a staff yet to make the calls for me. I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to have a staff soon to be calling. But they could be doing that if they make the list the night before when they're driving to their next job, or even if when they're washing the home or rinsing off the home, they could be have a headset on and they could be calling businesses and make a list and just start calling and get into the habit. And over time, you're going to get better and better and more efficient at it. Or you're driving your next job, you could be calling.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a way, and I think that it's important to because it's very easy to just say I don't have the time or I don't have the flexibility to do that. There's always a way. I
Right.
think it's important. Yeah.
Wallace asked a question here. Any research being done on how much commercial clients increase sales because of the additional exposure of professional Christmas lights? I definitely think this can help you. For instance, I know Sam Else does the Indianapolis Zoo, right? And so he's able to show, hey, I do the Cincinnati Zoo, I do these cities, I do these, and it gives you cred that nobody else has. Also, it helps you get other big, large commercial jobs. Right now we're mainly talking about commercial jobs, as in just lighting and garland and wreaths and stuff like that. I will have Joseph Murray on in a couple of weeks talking about a little bit different commercial, and that's when you start getting into the mega trees and that kind of stuff. And that's a whole nother level of commercial, right? This is kind of the start of commercial. We'll talk about a whole nother level of commercial when we're dealing with inventory stuff that cost $85,000, right? The mega tree that cost $85,000 is your cost, not their cost. So that becomes a whole nother level of what we're dealing with there. So we're mainly talking about HOAs right now. We're talking about a lot of your mom and pop shops, all of those things that are awesome. One other thing I was going to hit too is when you're in Q1, the first quarter, January, February, March, when you're taking down, even last year, go drive around in December and start looking at these buildings that have Christmas lights and you can start on those businesses right out of the get go because you already know they have Christmas lights and you don't know if they're happy with their people or not. And that is why we want to make sure why we want to go ask those people too. Another thing too, before we move to the next thing here is you can use LinkedIn. LinkedIn can be a great tool for you. You're getting these information. You can go put them in, find them on LinkedIn, and then you can send them a message, a video message. The more personal you make it, the more likely they're going to remember you. And that's what we're trying to work on, is trying to get them to remember you. So go take LinkedIn, go find them on LinkedIn, and then send not just a message saying, hey, I spoke to you. Send a video message. Hey, this is Jason with, Holiday Accents. It's so exciting that I got to talk with you. And that will go so much farther because you're building that human relationship with people. And that is key of what you're doing to be able to do this. So just another little tidbit for them. Did you have anything on that?
No, no, I just that brings up the good point about I'm going to show this like the thing I do, right? Like, so I want to give people something, like something tangible. Like, I know I say to do these things, but I'll show y'all kind of the process I go through tonight with Jason, and I'm going to show you what I do to impress the
That's not what
customer.
I want.
So
All right, let me see if I can bring it up here. Um, I don't know why I didn't bring that up.
I
Um,
text you. Do you want me to email you, Jason?
well, I mean, it brought it up as a PDF, but it's
Yeah,
not.
that's it. It should be a PDF.
Yeah, and it's a blank screen. Um, Let me see. Oh, I see what it is. If I can change it here. Google. There we go. All right.
There we go. Yeah.
It's got my face on there, but there you go. Now it's got yours. All right. So
So
this is a proposal that you put together and you spend time to do this for everybody, or who do you do this for?
yeah, so this is for clients. So I put this proposal together, and I worked really hard to create this. And as you can see here, prepared for, that would be where the business name would go in. I just didn't want to put in a business name, ABCD, and then Joe Blogs. That would obviously be the person I spoke to. Uh, and then put a design at the forefront. You could have a nice picture on install. But this here is something that I believe differentiates me from my competitors, right? Because as we go through this, you're going to see hopefully the quality of what you're looking at, the proposal itself, and it's all about first impressions. At the end of the day, you want to look as professional as you can when you're dealing with these customer clients, and this is why I want to show you all this tonight, because I do get a lot of questions about, well, how are you doing this, Daniel? And I want to give back a little, and so I wanted to give you something tangible here. So, yeah.
I'm working on it. It's not being.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's being stupid. Uh, see if it'll do it again. Uh, all right. Let's see if it'll work this time.
That's fine.
All right. So basically, this is where you did. It's the date when you're doing it or the month. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this right here, this is the first, well, second page, and you're just kind of introducing, right? You're introducing yourself. You know, you've already spoke to the person, but maybe they didn't have long on the phone with you, and you're just kind of, it's just like an intro letter, a cover letter, right? Kind of introducing your company and what you offer, whether it's for, you know, temporary lights or whether it's for permanent lights. And so, yeah, nice little picture of an HOA entryway we did at the bottom there. And then, yeah, straight into it, like who we are, right? So, you know, giving a little bit of an idea of what we do, who we are, who we work with. And already there's some of the businesses that we've decorated. And it just kind of gives you a little bit of validation. Um, and then this is where you start to get into the meats and bones of it. So, something I've realized with these commercial clients is they need everything spelled out for them, right? They want, because this is, especially when you're dealing with HOAs in particular. So, what I've found is when I'm dealing with HOAs, you're dealing with the property manager for the HOA, but then every single HOA I've dealt with, I've then had to send it to the board. So the board then take a document, right? And this is where I had this idea to put together this and make it look good, is because you may build up a great relationship with the property manager, which I've done, but then it's kind of out of their hands once it's sent on to the board. So they would then send this document over to the board, who would then make the decision at a board meeting. And so you want to make sure, and usually it's three bidders on an HOA, you want to make sure that your proposal looks better than your competitors. It's all about first impressions, and I think taking pride in as you look at this proposal and presenting well, it's just a good first impression. And so you want to break everything down, spell out every single thing you're going to be doing, uh, and leaving no stone unturned, so to speak.
This gives you some credibility here. The 5-star Googles
Yeah,
also gives
yeah.
you when the time and the date of completion.
Yeah.
Gives you
And
some
so
reason.
this,
Go ahead.
yeah, so that's the 10 reasons. I know that somebody had asked that question about, you know, giving people why it's a good idea to have Christmas lights and stuff. You know, you can make this specific. This was for a bank. This last proposal I did was for the bank. So in there, it's got like why this is a good idea for the bank, right? Like, so 10 reasons. And you can change that for a hospital or a pub or an HOA, and you just want to give them 10 reasons. It doesn't have to be 10, but I think 10 is a good round number. And it just kind of, again, makes them know why it's good for their business, right?
Yep. And then next thing is your packages.
Yep. Packages. So packages, what I like to do, and this is actually advice I took off Jason. Uh, I like to give three different options, right? Uh, and that's the way I do it. Everyone's different. It's worked well for me, and I've found that a lot of them seem to go for the middle package. I don't know if there's any psychology behind that. I think there is, and that's worked well. So that's why, you know, I do it that way, and I always give them the design of exactly what they're going to get, so they always have something to refer back to. And again, with these designs, take a lot of pride in making sure they look great, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your design looks better than the other two, especially in an HOA that the other two bids are looking at, right? So it's all about doing things to the best of your ability.
And then testimonials are always great,
Yep. Testimonials.
and past jobs that you've done.
Yep. Past jobs, HOAs, shopping centre, and then more with the reviews. And it's a direct link that's embedded into the PDF. And then, yeah.
So I think this helps you out a lot. But here's the thing, and I hear it all the time, Jason, that takes a lot of time. And here's the thing, and this is what I told Daniel, because we had these conversations many times, right? Daniel, you do it once, and yes, it took a lot of time, but now you can do it over and over and over, because
Yeah.
you can build it in Canva, and it makes it real easy to be able to do this. It's not real hard at all to do it if you do it in Canva. Um, there's another app that you could do it in too that will also help you put a lot of it together, and it's called Gamma, Gamma. So those are two apps that you can do it in, and to make your proposals look amazing. You know, it's one of those things that you have to take action. You know, I Daniel and I got on, before we got on this phone call. He was sending me stuff, and here's the thing: everybody wants the easy button. Nobody wants to do the work. And if you're not willing to do the work, you're probably not going to be successful in the end. I don't mean you have to do all the work, but you have to do some of the work. One of the reasons why we're doing this video is so when people message Daniel, he can send them this video and be like, here's how you do it, right? So you have to take action. You know, One of the things that people don't understand is they want the easy button. There is no easy button. There's zero easy button. One of our good friends, David Hamill, was on here, and he was on. Here's the thing: these guys are coming to my Monday night Zoom calls. They come and watch me on Sunday, they come and watch me on Wednesday, and then they join my membership and come and do my Monday nights. Why? Because in there you learn a lot of different things and a lot of different people. My last class, I had Daniel there, I had Justice there, I had David Hamill there. I had a lot of people in that class that come to my in-person class. It isn't because of they don't know how to install the lights. It's so that they can learn better and do it, right? And when you get around like-minded people and you get around successful people, it's going to change your life. I
Yeah.
promise you that.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something? I look like you were going to say something there.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Like, I learned so much from yourself, and also like people like David Hamill, like you just mentioned, Eric Beck. These people, like, they, they just like David brought a whole thing to your class of all these things I'd never seen before, like just quality, like quality cards and quality flyers, and the idea about doing the Texas Roadhouse cards and all these things and these little golden nuggets you're picking up like all weekend, like it was worth every single penny. And I actually had to leave, didn't I? I had to leave on the Saturday to get home with my kids and things, but um, I always knew I was going to only be gone for those 2 days, but I learned so much during those 2 days. It's just I can't wait for the next one. I'm excited.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because everybody wants to be where Daniel and David Hamill and some of these, Jeremy Main. My next class is going to be in Michigan with Jeremy Main. They did over $500,000 in Christmas lights. They did over $1 million in a pressure washing and Christmas light business. They figured things out. And these are things that you can learn also. And this is the importance of why you should start thinking differently, right? Commercial is not something that, oh, I'm just going to get it and it's going to be easy. I've got somebody message me, I just want the template. Then make the template, because every template is going to be a little bit different. You need to put your template so that it's your template. Yeah, you can do a lot of the same things that you just seen here and it will work for you. But you got to be about you and how you are different and how you, right? And how you're going to make your customer looks house amazing. And these are things that are going to set you apart at the end of the day. Commercial work, you know, I got my dose of commercial work right out of the get go. I One of the first things of one my first year, we had a $15,000 Christmas trees, and there was like, sheeple Pete, there was 50 trees down the two
Oh,
entranceways. But you know what? I got really good at how to hang lights on trees, like really, really, really good, really fast. The first time it took us 3 days to get these stupid things up. The next year, I had them up within like a day and a half, because I got really, really good with trees. But there is no easy button. We didn't know how to bid those when we were starting out. I will help you get some of this stuff, right? I will help you find out some of this stuff. But some of this you have to just go out there and do it.
yeah,
There is no easy button, right? When you come to my class, I teach you a lot of things. I teach you all, you know, hanging the Christmas lights, that's the easy part. In fact,
yeah,
I want to say something about that. Some of the most successful people that I have hanging Christmas lights and pressure washing business, guess what? They don't hang the Christmas lights and they don't do the pressure washing. How many jobs last year did you do last year, Daniel?
a lot.
You didn't do that many. How many roofs did you get on?
Oh, one or two maximum. Not even. Nah,
That's what I'm
probably
getting
one
at,
if I'm
right?
lucky.
David Hamill's like, I've never washed a house. I've never done a Christmas light job. Because they're using their brain and thinking outside and building relationships. When Daniel's calling these people, he's building relationships with these people. When you're walking into these businesses, you're building relationships. And that is the key to this networking. If you don't, people that can't get off the truck wonder why they can't grow. Well, you can't grow because you can't network. It's hard to be at a networking thing while you're on the truck trying to hang Christmas lights or hang on the truck trying to pressure wash. It just doesn't happen that way. And that is why I'm harping on this so hard is you have to figure this out. So with that, Daniel, what are your thoughts on what I just said, basically?
Yeah, I fully agree. And like I've learned so much of the network within that you've created, right? Like we just spoke about that, like other people, and everything that you saw there when I presented that proposal.